Welcome once again to our few minutes together on the Parsha. This Shabbos, the first Shabbos after Shavuos and the acceptance of the Torah, we have the privilege of reading Parshas Nasso, which has the distinction of being the largest Sedra in the Torah in terms of psukim. There are 176 psukim in Parshas Nasso, similar to the largest Masechta in Shas Bava Basra, which has 176 blat, and the largest Perik in Tilim, Perik Kuf Yates, which has 176 psukim similar to Parshas Nasso. The very beginning of Parshas Nasso, and where it gets its name from, comes from the words Nasso es rosh b'nei Gershon gam heim. Hashem spoke to Moshe and he said, Nasso es rosh b'nei Gershon gam heim. Lift up the heads of the family of Gershon, also them. Now we know that there are three families of Levi. The oldest one was Gershon, then came Kahas, and then came Merari. In last week's Sedra in Bamidbar, Kahas is mentioned first as being counted from the age of 30 and on. And the reason that Kahas is mentioned before Gershon, even though Gershon was the elder, is because Kahas was carrying the holy objects. Kahas carried the Aron. Kahas carried the menorah and the shulchan, all the kadosh elements, all the holy spiritual elements that were in the Beis HaMikdash. Gershon, they carried the curtains, that which made the ohel. By being on top of the Mishkan, there were a series of three curtains. They carried all the curtains, all the hangings that went around the outside of the Mishkan. That was their job to carry. And Merari, the youngest, they carried the boards of the Mishkan, the physical, actual boards of the Mishkan, and they were mentioned at the end. So Kahas is mentioned in last week's Sedra. In this week's Sedra, it says, Nasso es rosh b'nei Kahas, b'nei Gershon gam heim, lift up the heads of the family of Gershon, also them. And then Merari is mentioned at the end, and as the Even Ezra points out, they are included in the gam that is mentioned at the beginning of the Sedra. The Das Yekena Mibali Atosfos makes mention of the fact, why did the word gam have to be inserted by the Bnei Gershon? And as we said, it covers also the Bnei Merari. Why the word gam? Why not just say, as it said by Kahas, Nasso es rosh b'nei HaKahasi, and by the Gershon, Nasso es rosh b'nei Gershon gam heim. Just say heim without the gam. What's the purpose of the gam? So he gives a little bit of a teretz because he wasn't counted according to the age that he was born. As we said, Gershon was the oldest, and so he was mentioned second, and therefore we say gam, even though he should have been first. Rav Moshe Feinstein Zatzal, Rosh Yeshiva, says such a beautiful thing. He says, there are a lot of people that are looked upon as being the bearers of the holiest of the holy. They carry the Aron, they carry the menorah, they carry all the spiritual appurtenances of the Mishkan, they carry all the really holy stuff that belongs to the Jewish people. The Talmidei Chachamim, the Rabbanim, the leaders, they're the ones who are counted. But the people who aren't going to Shiurim, and the people who are not learning at a high level, the people who are not the Kodesh Kadoshim, so to speak, are not to be counted and considered. So the Torah tells us, listen, Kahas carried the Holy of Holies. They carried the Aron. They carried the Luchos. Gershon only carried the curtains. But Gershon is counted Gam Heim. Also they. They are as important and they are as valuable as Kahas. Whatever every individual does, whatever we do, if it's the learning of Gemara, fine. If it's the learning of Chumash and Rashi, if it's the saying of Tehillim, if it's the praying with Kavanah, if it's the giving of Tzedakah, every single Jew is counted. And the truth is, if we only realized that we have the potential to grow as individuals and to fulfill our tasks in the same way that the Bnei Kahas fulfilled their tasks. Just as Kahas, when they carried the holiest of holies, when they were doing that, they had to fulfill it properly. So too Bnei Gershon, even though they weren't carrying the Holy of Holies, they had to fulfill their responsibility in the best fashion possible. And so Gam Haim, they are just as important, they are just as valuable, just as necessary and needed. It's true that there's a Kodesh Kadoshim in the Mishkan, but if there are no curtains around the Mishkan, if there are no coverings over the Mishkan, there's no Mishkan, and there's no Holy of Holies. Every one of us is absolutely necessary and crucial, and so each and every one is counted. And we should realize that whatever our place in life is, each and every one of us has his or her own special place. And we can be the best we can be at being in that place, because they are Gam Haim. Just like us, the Holy of Holies, so is Gershon, so is Merari, Gam Haim. Also they, just as important, just as valuable. Every member of Klal Yisrael is important and valuable. Have a wonderful Shabbos.